Remake Rewind.
Thank you for listening to Remake Rewind, the podcast where we decided remakes or reboots should have happened. As always, I am Mike, and with me I've got my two, I want to say trusty co-hosts, but I don't trust them. But I've got my two co-hosts. And I've got Double D, a.k.a. David. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Mike. Not a lot.
Good.
Yep.
Good.
Good.
We're gonna
And
talk
we've
about
got
this.
Alex. How are you doing, Alex?
Hey, I'm doing good as well. Well, we'll see after this movie.
All right. Well, these are some interesting movies we picked, to say the least. Who wants to tell our listeners what we're going to be talking about for the next 45 minutes to an hour?
Ugh. Go ahead, Alex.
Maybe shorter.
Oh,
Maybe longer.
We're talking about Rollerball from 1975 and Rollerball from 2002.
That we are, good sir. Have you guys seen either of these movies before?
Nope.
The
never seen
remake
that.
I have.
Yeah, I've seen the remake a couple of times, but it was like when it came out on DVD when Blockbuster was still a thing.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I am sorry.
I remember it being okay, and I was wrong.
Very
We'll
wrong.
Say that now.
Your taste was horrid.
No, I mean 2002. I was 12 years old, going on 13. So
I could see this being cool if I was 12.
right. Well, it was also like a movie that I remember my mom, like we rented it, and my mom's like, "Oh my god, this is awful. It's so bad," And I remember it came back on TV, or my dad rented it a second time. I don't remember it being this bad. And my dad, it was one of those movies that my dad really liked the original one. And this is very similar to Death Race, like the one with David Carradine. Very similar, like satire and everything. So my dad really liked the original Death Race, and he really liked the original Rollerball. So of course, he wanted to check out the newer ones. But I'm ready to talk about them. Who's going to summarize?
I don't know
the
that
first
I'll
one?
ever be ready to talk about these.
Well, the sooner we talk about them, the sooner you forget.
Let's get it over with.
All right. So that'll be me. I have the first one. This is from Monkey King M.A. In a corporate-controlled future, an ultraviolet sport known as Rollerball represents the world, and one of its most powerful athletes is out to defy those who want him out of the game. It's from Monkey King.
Nice.
Thanks,
So-
Monkey King.
Just so you guys know, this was a bona fide hit.
Apparently.
This was the 11th biggest movie in 1975. It was a huge movie. It had a $5 million budget. It made $30 million. Back then, that was a lot of money. That was huge. The thing about this movie is it was written as a short story that showed up in Esquire first, and then the guy who wrote the original short story got to write the screenplay for this movie. But it was a big deal, and it did really, really well. And the thing that's really funny about it is James Caan, obviously the guy who plays Jonathan E., which I think is a funny name that they just kept calling him Jonathan E.
Jonathan E.
But he called this movie, when people would ask him about this movie, they'd say, "Hey, what is this movie about?" And he'd say it's about 90 minutes. Well, that's a lie. It's 2 hours and 5 minutes. But then he said in 1977, when somebody asked him to rate the film out of 10, he said he gives it an 8 out of 10 because he couldn't do much with the character. Now, that's actually pretty good when his last statement was, "What's it about? About 90 minutes." It seems like he didn't like this movie. And I do get where he's coming from when he says there's not a lot that he could have done with the character. But this movie was really a big deal because it was,
You can
just like Death Race,
you can definitely see its influences it's made on pop culture, like Running Man. I can see what Running Man got its influence from this and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, you look at even like RoboCop. The satire is very similar to this.
The corporate owning.
Yeah, exactly. They're same thing. I think Death Race came out the same year or maybe a couple years earlier than this, but very similar anti-corporate, conglomerate kind of thing. And it's kind of a big deal in the 70s because Vietnam was going on or just ending, and this was prior to the 1980s where consumerism really kind of hit its stride, and we're still kind of dealing with the consequences of obviously corporations and running things. And we're kind of, a lot of people say we're at the end stage of capitalism, and that's kind of terrifying. And realistically, a lot of this stuff that goes on, at least in this first movie, is kind of still relevant today.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. I don't know, man. This movie was confounding.
Well, it's definitely less confounding than the original or the sequel.
Well, they're just confounding for
remake.
different reasons, I feel.
I mean,
kinds
this
of
movie
confounding.
was interesting because I actually watched this. I had a really busy week, so I wasn't able to watch it straight through. So I was watching it on my lunches at work. So I'd
I feel
watch
like that
45
would have been
minutes.
a better way to watch it.
No, I would have preferred to watch it straight through. But I watched it like 45 minutes here, 45 minutes there, and then I finished it on the elliptical at the gym. So
Humble brag. Humble brag.
it's not humble at all, and it's not
Just
a brag.
straight up bragging.
No, it's not a brag at all. I'm super fat again. All the weight that I
Nice.
lost when I started working out at the beginning of the year, gained it all back.
Good job.
Yep, every single pound
Gains.
back on me.
Gains. Yummy.
Anyway, are there any highlights in this film for you guys?
I mean, I really liked the rollerball portions of it. Just
Yeah.
the fucking mayhem.
The thing is, like, it was kind of muted for me. Like, it kind of seemed kind of boring at certain points. Like, it was interesting initially, but I thought a lot of the scenes went on for
Yeah,
a
way
little
too long.
too long.
There were way too many like long scenes of just skating.
But it was hella
Right.
Yeah.
brutal though.
But-
like the
Yeah.
oh my god, like one sequence he throws a guy where the ball comes out and it just like smashes him in the face. I was
Right.
like, God damn, that's
And he had said earlier in the movie that that would take your arm right off if you
take
caught
your
it
arm
wrong.
Yeah. Well, the thing that's funny about this movie is they say it takes place in 2018. So obviously, this is one of those future movies that have passed, and it's not accurate.
After all
But
the corporate. Oh my god, dude, the zero
The computer.
that was completely irrelevant. Like, did not need to be in the movie. What the fuck?
Well, I think I get why it was. So I think we should kind of go through it very briefly at the beginning. Beginning to end, a little bit more summary than we do. But it is. I'd probably say out of the 2 hours and 5 minutes, it's probably a good 45 minutes of Rollerball. And then the rest of it is him dealing with society. And I think what's weird about it is I get the overall satire of the film is we need to be wary of corporations getting bigger and making more decisions and being involved in politics. And I think that, like I said earlier, I think that's super relevant today with lobbying. We have so many different corporations paying money to politicians and, not paying taxes, but still kind of being able to do whatever the hell they want. It's, it's weird. It that part's relevant, and I like that portion. But the overall plot, what I don't understand is essentially Jonathan E., played by James Caan, is the greatest rollerball player of all time. And he basically does he's like a one-man team. He scores like all the goals, and he's great, and everybody loves him. His team loves him. He's the team captain. And like his team is like a family. And he's getting like a TV special, and then he's told he needs to retire and announce his retirement, and he's reluctant to do it. This is all he has. And then you find out, he would do it if he had his wife, but his wife was taken away because an executive at a corporation thought she was hot and she wanted him, or he wanted her. So he kind of is like, all I have is Rollerball. I don't want to give it up. And then he just goes through the movie, and it's kind of like Fahrenheit 451 as well, where it's kind of like they don't want people to be knowledgeable, and what's being hidden, and knowledge is power, and that's why they don't want people to have power. But it's kind of done shittily. It's weird because he goes through and he decides, well, why are the corporations doing this? So he starts doing research, and he finds out he can't get books, and then he goes to a library and finds out that they're all digitized. So then he goes to the place where they digitize the books, and it turns out they lost like 100 years worth of books.
They lost all of the 13th century.
All of 13th century. And then he finally kind of confronts the corporation, like, why do you guys want me to retire so much? And this is the part of the movie I really didn't get, is the whole thing was they designed the game to show the futility of individualism, that no one person can beat the corporations. And I don't get it. Like, I don't get how this game did that. Like, if that was what they wanted, why did they build this guy up? Why did they give him all these sponsorship deals? Why did they give him a helicopter? Why did they give him a
Everything he
mansion?
wanted. Yeah.
Like, why did they make him a celebrity?
Jonathan E.
No, that was a real question, guys. Why? Oh, I don't get it.
Oh no, I don't get it either.
Maybe they just needed the viewership and they needed someone to tag along with.
I
mean,
guess- I think
for me, yeah. Go ahead, Alex.
I think there was like a passing reference where they say like the game was developed to be really difficult and not for someone to last as long as he
long, right?
Yes.
Right. And I can kind of get that because, even in 1975, James Caan looked like an old man. He's always looked like he's 50. And I just don't understand. Like, and I can get that, normally people don't last that long. But, like, everybody who's playing looks like they were in their 40s. Like, nobody was young. I just don't get how, that, like they say, the futility of the individual. No one individual can do well, blah, 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 blah. But how does that translate to the average American? Like, how is the average American supposed to see a sport and be like, that'd be like us watching football. Football's arguably, or basketball. Those are the two biggest sports out there right now, right?
Right.
It would be like saying, like, watching LeBron James and be like, oh, we need to take out LeBron James because he's showing that
he's got too much power.
He's got too much power. Individuals are too good. It's like, but if we didn't have somebody like LeBron James, it's like, as a viewer, I'm supposed to go, what's futile? What doesn't make any sense? Individualism. like, I just don't understand how having a celebrity promotes individualism.
Well, I think
he
it's
was
more
super
like,
humble.
Yeah, he was. I agree with that. But it's more like, well, if this person can't even be an individual in this world, well, who am I to say I could be?
Yeah, but it's not like these decisions. It's not like the corporations are making commercials being like, yeah, we made Jonathan E. retire. Like, they don't want the world to know. So it doesn't make sense. Like, the average person would never get that. And if anything, I feel like it makes sense that I guess they just don't want people to strive to be good. That's the only thing I can think of. It's like, oh, look at Jonathan E. He worked really hard and now he's famous. But then before they even get to that point, like before they tell Jonathan E. to retire, they're in the locker room and he's giving like his little pep talk, and like he's super humble. He really cares about his team. He's like, oh, we work together as a team and blah, 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 blah. He's like doing training and teaching people how to be better. The owner of the team, Bartholomew, comes in and he gives a speech about how great Jonathan is and how they wish they can pay him more. And he looks at Moon Pie and it's like, hey, don't you want to be paid like him someday? Do you want to be the next Jonathan E? Like, if they have a problem with Jonathan E, why would they be talking about making another celebrity? Like, you'd think they would like not want to do that.
I think it's more that he became more he's becoming more popular than like the corporations themselves or something, or he's like becoming more successful.
But the whole point is like they're trying to manipulate people, and the average person wouldn't know about these backdoor deals going on. So him retiring doesn't, like, the American people don't know that he was pushed to do that. So as far as they know is this guy was super successful. He got a little older and he got everything he ever wanted. I don't see how the people are manipulated to do what they want them to do. Like, if I saw that going on and I saw him retire, I'd be like, yeah, look at that guy. He worked his ass off. He played for 10 years. He played more than anybody else. Good on him. Good innings. Great job.
Well,
amazing
maybe
career.
They just don't want people to have idols because, like, oh, maybe if I work hard,
But
like
they
Jonathan
already
E.
set him up, and they were giving him a TV special, and they were playing all his highlights. Like, they shouldn't do that then. And I get that they designed that thinking he would announce his retirement, but he didn't, and it backfired. But still, like, you're still going and having a highlight reel showing how amazing this one person is.
Yeah, right.
I don't get that. That's the thing that I don't get. Like, I liked all the other satire. I got it. I understood. I appreciate it. I think it's relevant today, 40 years later. But the overall plot, just that one thing, I didn't get it. Like, it'd be one thing if he started questioning it, like he found out that things were rigged, like people were getting hurt, and like this is more like the new one, but like if he found out that corporations were maybe fixing the games, like if he found out he wasn't as good as he thought he was, like other people were being paid to take a dive, and he decided like, no, I'm going to expose this.
That's the only thing I liked that the new movie did was have more of an explanation to it. for me. But
We'll talk about it because I feel like it went from like 0 to 100
real quick
in that, where it's just like it was real quick. But yeah, this whole thing, like just the central conceit of the plot, I just didn't get. Like, I bought everything else. I thought it was a good dystopian future movie overall. I can get it. Like, obviously it's dated. You know, they're wearing roller skates instead of rollerblades.
Right.
But overall, I can get why this was popular in the 70s, even if it was a little racist.
It was so racist a little.
The Tokyo has the samurai spirit.
Yeah.
They're so small. Yeah, but 2 or 3 of those small things make a big thing. And I like the idea of corporation wars. And like they even borrowed that in Demolition Man with Stallone and Wesley Snipes. So like this movie has a lot of things that, you know, carried forward in future movies over the last 40 years. And I feel like I can see why they made a remake, and I think I'll make this point later. But overall, it's a weird movie.
Yeah, I think the whole movie, I was just looking for explanations for things.
Yeah, and there's one thing I didn't understand, and maybe you guys will be able to understand this part. So when they're filming his TV special, he doesn't they're on the teleprompter is his little retirement speech, and he doesn't do it. And there's this like female host, and throughout the little interview, she's getting like less and less there. And then afterwards, he says to her, "You look terrible. You shouldn't be taking these things that people give you."
Oh,
and she goes, "What did I take?" Was that? Oh, that was his wife.
Daphne or whatever her
Yeah,
name
his
is.
new wife.
But so she takes something, and he goes, "You shouldn't take things that are offered." And she goes, "What did I take?" And he goes, "Nothing that will harm you." But the way he says it is like, you know, did he drug her?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the whole movie
I
they were having those little pills.
Yeah, I think he was just because he was just trying to get some info out of her. I think that's
What the fuck? So he drugged her.
Yeah.
yeah.
But then like he didn't get anything out of it.
I think it was more like she wasn't able to influence him in that moment.
But he already didn't like her. Like throughout the movie, she's always talking about, "You don't actually like me. You've never liked me. You don't want me around." And it's true, he doesn't, because his actual wife was taken from him.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, like,
And then there's like this inexplicable laser scene.
yeah, because like
that was
in
weird.
the beginning of that sequence when he drugged her, he was like trying to get info. He's like, so like you're really well known, or like you've gone around, so you must be really good at your job. So I think like he thinks that the corporation like briefed her that like, hey, we need you to push him to retire and stuff like that.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That wasn't explained very well.
Yeah.
So the big thing that drives the plot forward is they're trying to get him to retire by changing the rules of the game. So the second game that they play against Tokyo, they announce that they're going to have no penalties and reduced substitutions. And so they have this like little training thing, and they bring in this like guy from Japan to train them the way that the Japanese players do, and like nobody's listening. They're all joking around like, "Oh, we're from Houston, we're just gonna win," because they're like, "We're better." Houston. And the guy just is like, "You're gonna get fucked up." And then there's like this random new player who is just dicking around, and so Jonathan E is like, "Hey, you know, why don't you demonstrate how good you are?" And he's just talking, and the guy goes to skate really slow at him, and he just kind of like ducks, and he goes, "Your ears are really important. You got to listen to the other people skating. It's more important than your eyes." And it's like, that was a bit of a stretch. And I get it. And apparently they all played the between takes. They would actually play Rollerball.
Interesting.
Yeah, between takes. They actually really liked the game. Like
Did
they
they
actually
really just murder
made a
everyone?
full set of
I
rules.
do like the game. Like
It did seem like they
the
made a whole set
concept
of
of the
rules.
game. It's like
And
very
the
similar to
concept of the
roller
game-
derby and stuff. So
Yeah, and you just add like a ball in there and motorcycle. Like you could feasibly make this game work in real life.
Yeah,
Like it would be dangerous. Like obviously, if you were to do this game in real life,
with motorcycles.
I mean, even that you could do, because the rules were supposed to be people on motorcycles can't hit players, and
That's hella
people
hard.
the skaters can't hit the motorcycles people. So like a person can hit a person or a skater can hit a skater, but nobody can hit the motorcycle people. And the motorcycle people are only supposed to be there for blocking and dragging people to make them go faster. So like feasibly there is a way you can make this game work. But yeah, they actually played.
I have
I
a
don't
question
know.
for that last game. With no time limit, literally
I
the
have that
only
written down
way
too.
to win is to murder
Kill
everyone,
everybody?
right? Like, disable everyone.
So in the second game, we'll go to the last game. So the second game, they have reduced time limits. So what ends are reduced penalties and
Substitutions, no
reduced
penalties, yeah.
substitutions. So what ended up happening was his favorite motorcycle driver, Blue, gets killed, and like the bike explodes, and then you have Moon Pie is brain dead,
Yeah.
Right.
and the doctors are like, "Oh,
Here, just sign
the
this."
corporation won't it legally isn't allowed to sign off on this," which is weird. It's like the corporations can do everything, but they can't sign the pull the plug thing, and they're like, "Oh, but you can do it."
Here.
Yeah, why would
Jonathan
he be
E.
able to do it?
Why would he be able to do it? And then he's just like, "No, leave him how he is." And he takes this vegetable of a friend and puts him on a helicopter. And then he like vows to play the last game. So like to get him killed, they change the rules where there are no rules, no substitutions, no timeouts, and basically everybody from both teams is killed except for him. And then finally, like one guy on a motorcycle, and he's able to like take the motorcycle guy out, and he's about to bash the guy's brains in, and he's like, "Nah, I'm not gonna do it."
I did
And
enough.
he like
He was disabled
skates,
anyway.
and
He didn't need
he
to
scores
murder.
the 1 point. But like Double D said, like, how would this game have ended if there was no time limit? Like they said there was no time, but they still had a timer on the wall.
Yeah, I
counting
was
it down.
laughing at that. First period.
So I didn't get it.
No, I didn't get it either. Also, when there was 2 against 1, when it was 2 against Jonathan E., there's the motorcycle guy and the one other guy, and the
Yeah.
other guy just skated at him slowly. Like, what the hell is that about? Why didn't he
I
just
don't
take the
know.
motorcycle and run him over if there's no penalties?
There's a point where James Caan's terrible to his wife. Like I get that he didn't choose her, but there's a point where he like holds her down and he takes his like spiked glove
Yeah.
and he like slices
Scrapes
her
her
face
face,
with
yeah.
it. Dude, what the fuck?
Well, she
This
was
movie's weird.
Yeah.
Like he's not a good dude.
Corporate employees make corporate decisions.
Who makes corporate decisions?
I don't know.
Answer
It's
him!
weird.
Oh,
Answer him! Jonathan E is asking
He
you.
starts kicking the machine. Oh my god, a liquid machine. Oh god. No,
Let's
no,
see.
no, no.
But yeah, I had that same last game. No subs, no penalties, no time limit. Why is there a countdown? Yeah, and then the movie like ends on
On
a
his face.
like a freeze frame, which is a
Yeah,
little
that
bit
was
of
weird.
but yeah, it doesn't really make any sense. But like this movie, like I said, was a hit, 11th biggest film. James Caan didn't seem to be that big of a fan of it. But other than that, I don't really have anything else to say about this movie.
It was weird.
Yeah.
It didn't seem like his ex-wife really loved him either.
No, it didn't.
Bella. Yeah.
No.
And then that weird laser scene you talked about where they were just blowing up the trees.
Yeah,
It actually
I don't
looks
get why
like they
that
blew
wasn't
up
there.
those trees.
They
That
did
line
blow
of
up the trees,
Yeah.
but they just used like a Ruger kind of gun.
Yeah.
Like it was just like a regular pistol.
It was weird.
I don't get that. Like there's pieces in this movie that I like. Like there's a good movie there. And once again, it's very similar. Running Man, perfect example. Like
Thank you.
it's almost The Running Man,
Yeah.
and The Running Man's a great movie.
I
love
love
that movie.
Running Man. Yeah,
Running Man is so fucking good.
I put it on in the break room whenever I can.
yeah.
Yeah, well, that's not an appropriate work film.
No, I don't care.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about this movie. Let's move on to the next one.
2002 Rollerball. I've got a synopsis for us here.
Dancing Potato.
No, I'm skipping that one. Maybe I'll go back to it. But this one's from Clifton Baird. In this fast, action-packed thriller, Jonathan, Marcus, and Aurora compete in a dangerous, fierce sport called Rollerball. Although Jonathan and Marcus try to quit, cruel and vindictive promoter Alexei Petrovich encourages them to still participate. Petrovich sends his men to attack them while they're on a trip, but Jonathan survives. In the end, during a game of rollerball, I'm sorry, that says rollerball, Petrovich attempts a public execution of Jonathan, but the question is, will Jonathan get revenge? Okay,
All right.
Let me read the other one. This one's from Dancing Potato. The big thing in 2005 is a violent sport which can have some pretty serious consequences, like dying.
So, this movie has, before we get into it, I kind of want to tell you guys a little bit about... Because...
It was great. Like dying.
Like,
Because that's what this movie's about. So... I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a background on this movie before we really start talking about it, so you can kind of understand why. I'm just going to say right off the top, it's a bad movie.
I wish you would have given me this background before I watched the movie.
I think we can agree that it's a bad movie.
Terrible movie.
oh, yeah.
Okay. So, originally there was a draft that was really good, and it kind of like stuck to the whole set being a satire. And then the director said he didn't think that people would care about that, so he wanted to make it like a WWE, like showmanship, crazy costumes, stunts, and basically get rid of the story. So this guy from Ain't It Cool News was invited to the test screening personally by the director, and he said that it was one of the worst movies that he'd ever seen in his life.
Nice.
But he said the original cut of the movie, what he did appreciate about it was an unapologetic, hard R film with a lot of nudity, extreme brutal violence, and it was obvious that the story was bad and it was edited poorly. So they went and did reshoots. And so this film was originally completed in 2001. It was supposed to come out in 2001, but it got pushed. So theatrically it was released with a PG-13, but when it came out on DVD, it was released on a rated R version. So the theatrical version is completely different than the home release version. But they went through and they did one set, and MGM said it was too Asian. So they went through and edited it again and took out like a half an hour worth of footage. I don't know what that means.
Too Asian.
So then they went through and had the film ready to go, and they screened it again, and then they changed the music. They fired the guy who was doing the score, and they redid the score because it came out to Arabic. So I don't know what any of that means. And then there's just some weird editing stuff, and I'll wait until we get to the actual scene.
God.
I think you guys know what scene I'm probably talking about.
Oh my god.
But there's some interesting editing choices in this.
It's funny because like it's John McTiernan that directed this, and there's movies that I like that he's made.
So he did and this is the second movie that he did that was a remake from the director from the first movie. So he did this one, and he did the Thomas Crown Affair. He's done good movies, like Alex said.
Like Die Hard,
now,
and Predator, and
yeah, he has some great movies.
Last Action
Now the
Hero.
thing is, this movie got him arrested.
Wait, what?
Really?
Yep. So I'll get you guys through the background stuff. So they had to like really get people to convince people to do this movie. So Rebecca Romaine Stamos, who's now Rebecca Romaine O'Connell, she only did the movie after they agreed to cut one nude scene and reduce the face scar. So she has a face scar, but originally it was apparently going to be like way gnarlier.
Why?
And they reduced it. So she has a couple nude scenes in this one. In the PG-13 theatrical version, they just put a shadow over her. So she'd be walking around in a bright room, but she would just have like shadow digitally over her boobs, so you couldn't see that in the PG-13 version, which is weird. And they just they cut the sex scene out to get it in PG-13. But they ended up cutting 90 minutes to get it down to not 90 minutes, 30 minutes to get it down to PG-13.
That's a lot of
much
nudity.
Right. And they digitally erased the blood and added sweat instead. And throughout this film. So they did a lot to try to get this in theaters to recoup some of their losses. So they figured if they get it down to PG-13, enough people could see it, and they could recoup their money. So this movie cost $25 million, and it made $9 million.
Wow.
Yeah, it fucking tanked.
Wow.
And I think that's more money than this deserved, to be honest with you.
I agree.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I got that wrong. It did $70 million. It was a budget of $70 million, and it did $25 million. So it lost.
So bad.
And that's before you take into account, like, promoting the film. That's just the budget. So this movie lost a fuck ton of money. But, the director got arrested because he made a false statement to an FBI investigator when they... So basically what happened is he hired a private investigator to wiretap the producer of the film because he thought the producer of the film was trying to sabotage the film. So the director hired a private investigator, illegally wiretapped the producer's phone, and then when he got investigated, lied. And so he spent a year in prison over this movie.
Oh, this movie's
Nice.
turning out shit.
Good
It must be the producer.
So I think we should start talking about the movie now. Even this movie, I think there are things in it that are interesting. I think the overall story could be interesting. I think you can make a good movie out of Rollerball. I just don't think we got
like
one.
if you could mix the story from this one and do the execution on the first one, I think that would have been an all-around good movie.
And I think, maybe this movie came out a few years too early. And like, if you think about it, just, like 8 years later, maybe a little more than that. I don't know when Hunger Games came out. But, just within a decade of the release of this movie, the dystopian kind of future movies got really big again. So between like Hunger Games and the Divergent movies and Maze Runner, there is a place for this movie. I think you could have done something. You even look at, The Matrix a few years ago, like from 2000 to like 2015, like there's a good 10-15 year period where dystopian movies were the kind of the craze. So like, I think you could have done something with this. And they really tried. Like, they really wanted Keanu Reeves for the Jonathan Cross role, who ultimately went to Chris Klein.
Who looks like Jason Lee and Keanu Reeves combined.
He does. Oh, he's awful. He's a terrible actor.
So bad.
He was so bad. Like, his delivery was awful. His action scenes, like, there's a point where he, like, fights this big Russian dude. And it is the shittiest thing. So
he does like a flying. Do you guys remember that sequence where he flies off to kick him? He puts two legs up.
Oh, God.
Well, that was bad, but I think like the worst one is let's go through the movie. I think this is a movie that we really do need to go beginning to end and dissect this movie.
All right, so we start the movie with him and some other guy on a street luge with photographers, and first one to the San Francisco. He's there in San Francisco, by the way. First one to the bridge wins whatever amount of dollars it was, right?
Which bridge were they going to go to?
They showed the Bay Bridge, right?
I don't remember.
Yeah, but how would you get there from where they were on a luge?
No clue.
You'd have to go back up a hill. The Golden Gate would make more sense, but even that, you would go back up a hill.
But yeah, so they're on these luges going in through the streets and almost hitting people. He goes under a truck, right?
He hits a car like 5 times with his arm, and he's just
totally
like,
give me some space.
Yeah.
And then they get followed by cops who, are just waiting at his place later because they didn't catch him thanks to
the thing that doesn't make any sense is LL Cool J shows up out of nowhere and just like opens his door. He's like, get in. And he like jumps off his luge and like lands in LL Cool J's car.
Well, it was supposed to, I assume it was supposed to be a coincidence.
How? No, it wasn't a coincidence.
He was also going to the bridge.
Because it was like, Marcus Ridley, what are you doing here?
Right. Well, Marcus Ridley is LL Cool J who saved him. LL Cool J's character Ridley came specifically to recruit this guy to play rollerball. And he's like, nah, I can't go play rollerball. I'm about to make it to the big leagues in hockey. And he goes, wait,
in San Francisco.
Right. Well, no, you don't know that it was San Francisco is where the team was based.
No,
he just was living there. He goes, weren't you on the amateur team? And he goes, yeah, but they wanted me to play defense. So I quit. Kind of thing. It's like, what? But then he just sees the cops at his house. It says 4 months later, Central Asia. And then he's just like, all of a sudden, he's the biggest celebrity in the rollerball arena.
Oh my
and
God.
Basically, the overall plot of this film is Jean Reno, who's normally French, is playing a Russian guy named Petrovic, who owns Rollerball, and he's trying to get a international, global satellite deal, so Rollerball will be played everywhere in the world. Because I guess. Which still seems like it already was.
Yeah, because like
they had American, French.
intermissions or like the prologues, and it's like in English and Japanese and in different languages.
French,
yeah.
Arabic, yeah, everything. But maybe it's just like on like Sirius radio.
They never explained the ratings. They kept showing that rating screen, but never explained anything on it.
No, they do kind of explain it.
They never explained the scoring, like what's a good
Yeah,
score.
they don't tell you
the
like what's a
rating.
good score, what's a bad score, but like they were like creaming in their pants when it got over 20.
Yeah, which I don't.
So
think
yeah,
is
so
great rating.
basically the way this works is like as the game is going, like all these executives are in their box and they keep looking at this number, and as it goes higher, they're getting really excited. And as people get hurt, the number goes higher. And what kind of sets this movie, we only see like one game initially, right? And everything's great, but this guy his name is, I don't remember his name, Toba, who is like this like special guy who just plays like a giant dude who like goes down a slide and knocks people down. But other than that, he just sits at the top of the slide the whole game.
Wait, can we talk about how convoluted the rules are for this version?
Yeah,
It's so dumb. Like they have to go through a
They weren't that
rabbit
complicated.
hole, and then they have to loop around.
They don't have to. No,
it
that's
says
the
they-
rabbit hole's a shortcut.
No,
No,
they said
they have to
through
go
it.
through the rabbit hole.
And it's a 12-foot drop after the rabbit hole, and then they have to go through that figure eight 2 times before they can try and score.
No, I didn't realize they had to go through the thing because you only ever saw them do it like
It's so
once.
dumb.
No, there was
like, the
2
whole
times
movie.
we saw.
Oh.
There's one
Well,
Russian guy that just yelled before he went through it, and then
this
then
first
squatted through it.
game didn't make any sense. So he's going around and they're scoring, and you know you see him score once, and then you see like a female player score, and then you see like one of the other teammates score. So they have like 3 goals before they go to like halftime, right?
Yeah.
And Aurora, played by Rebecca Romaine, was like, "You're such a hot dog. You never pass the ball."
Hot dog
And it's like,
cowboy.
up to that,
shit.
yeah, up until that point, you'd only seen him score once, and you see 2 other people score. So then I'm like, why is he a hot dog? Why are they calling him this? And then all of a sudden, he's playing again, and he refuses to pass. He refuses to pass to someone, and she's like, you're a hot dog." It's like, maybe you should have had that scene first before
Yeah.
calling him a hot dog, and then have him after the halftime let him show other people scoring, like he listened and he was a team player. But it was kind of like reverse. It would be like if you watch somebody like have I can't think of a good example. Let
I
me
think it was
see.
just so you get more of that aha moment when you see them together.
I guess, but like edit it differently. Like have him being a showboat first, and then go through and have him to be a teamer. It'd be almost like if you were watching like an arm wrestling thing, like Stallone's over the top and being like, "Oh, he only can win if he does the over the top move," but they show him win 3 times without it, and then you see him struggle. It's like, wait a second, no, that's exactly the opposite of what you just said. But that didn't make any sense. And so, yeah, but like Double D just mentioned, like they end up banging in secret. Like they're actually like together.
She
but they
like
can't
breaks
let
the
anyone know.
camera. It was so dumb.
But what's weird is, so Torba gets hit in the face with the ball, and his helmet goes flying off. And then as he stands up, some guy hits him in the face with the ball. And everyone's partying after the game, and like they give a toast to Jonathan E. And they're like, or he's not Jonathan E. in this, he's just Jonathan Cross. And he was like, "No, this toast should be for Toba." And Denny, who's like the local guy who grew up in the mines in Russia, is like, "I think his helmet was cut. Here's his helmet," and it has like a clean cut thing. He's like, "Yeah, I think they did this on purpose because, why else would they have cut the helmet, right?" So I'm fucking sucking names on this. Jonathan goes to the Petrovic and is like, "Hey, I think this was cut." And the Petrovic is like, "I'll get to the bottom of this. You don't worry about a thing, little boy." And later on, he goes and bangs Aurora. And for whatever reason, they're driving through a riot. And he tells her what's going on. And she goes, "Oh, yeah, let me show you this. This was definitely on purpose." And so she sees the feed of like 5 cameras. 4 cameras are on him. And he's like, "Oh, they're just tracking the action." She goes, "No. Here's the action. 1 camera on you scoring and 4 on him getting killed. We knew this. They knew this was going to happen." That's a shitty way to do that.
What?
Track it for 15 seconds?
Like, it doesn't make sense. Well, one, that like it's obvious that's going to happen. But wouldn't it make more sense for ratings if they if they told the big guy who ended up hitting him in the face, like, "Hey, hit someone in the face with the ball right as he's scoring a goal," or like during play, not like when he's just skating around. Like, I don't feel like that's as interesting. Like somebody getting like that would be like if watching football,
and someone's just standing around and gets
somebody's
destroyed.
standing there during timeout and just gets fucking tackled.
I mean,
like people would be pissed if they saw that.
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
People would be like, "What the fuck? That's bad." But if some guy is, he just catches the ball and gets taken out and he blows a knee, people are gonna be like, "Oh fuck! Like that was an incredible hit. Oh, that's
another
fucked up.
thing
That sucks."
I didn't quite understand because like there's a like was it this one where there's just like a bunch of random ass people constantly on the arena and there's like officials.
Yeah,
and
there's
stuff.
tons of people in there.
There's constantly running
Yeah,
around.
no, it's weird. But like the editing in this movie is dog shit.
Okay.
Like when they're playing the game, like it's impossible to track what's actually going down because it's just jump cut, jump cut, jump cut. You see one person with the ball and then the goal, and one person with the ball, and then like they're on the other side of the rink. Like it's impossible to track what's actually going on in this movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So
I also feel like it's very influenced by like Fast and the Furious and like the XXX movies. Like it's that style of.
But I mean, and they came out around the same time, and I think that's why the director decided to change things. But still, it doesn't. I just don't get it. But they go and he ends up telling they have like their second game, and I don't remember really what happened with the second game. Nothing really gnarly happened. Too bad. They try to kill Aurora. Because they kind of figure out, but it's really not that big of a deal. And so they just decide that they're going to leave. And like this whole thing happens so quick. Like I kind of wish they had more games and then you start to see. But like there's only one incident that we see that they manipulated the game to raise the ratings,
it was
right?
Another, they removed that window also. I think that happened too, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Well, my point is we have one game and he's super happy. Nobody notices anything except for the Russian guy. And then he is immediately just like, yeah, this game's pretty fucked up. I want to get out of here. And then the second game happens and they're like, Ridley is kind of like on the fence, but they're like, nope, we definitely need to get out of here. So then they try to just like leave and they get like a motorcycle and they're like driving through the desert or they're in a truck first.
Yeah.
Why did they get out of the truck?
Because
and into the motorcycle?
The cars came up and like crashed into them, so they're like,
That's right. So yeah,
God.
these guys come up and try to kill him, and then they get in the motorcycle, and then they go to jump. They get shot by like fireworks, and then LL Cool J jumps the motorcycle over the bridge to get to the border because they're like, "Oh, you should go because you have a family. They're not going to kill me. They want me to keep playing this game, but I'll get out eventually. Go." So like this. For the moving the plot forward, I get these scenes, but inexplicably, it's in green, like
it's night vision. Yeah.
So they're driving in night vision. They fight these cars in night vision. They're on this motorcycle in night vision, and they're being pursued by what they think is a car, and then it ends up being a plane. But the reason this was filmed in night vision, it wasn't. It was filmed regular, but they did a really bad job with lighting for like one of the scenes. And so when they went to go reshoots, they were going to reshoot this, but obviously they had like the plane and the CG and the stunt and the fireworks and the explosions. It was too expensive to go back and reshoot this whole segment. So they were like, oh, we'll just put a green filter over it and people will it'll be okay.
Dude, it was so bad.
Yeah, none of the rest of the movie's in night vision. It doesn't make any sense, but they kept it for the entire like 20-minute scene of them in a car chase, then the motorcycle chase.
Why was
and
the plane flying so low?
Well, they were right near an airport, I guess, or an airfield, and they were just
favorite line is like, "Oh, this is an off-road bike." Well, they have an off-road plane.
Right. Well, no, the worst part of it is,
of course,
Kevin Kline, Chris Klein is terrible, absolutely atrocious at acting, and he has this point where he's looking down at LL Cool J. He's writing bitch, by the way. The lead of the movie is writing bitch on a motorcycle. And he's like got his arms around the buff LL Cool J. And he goes, oh, how fast are we going? And he goes like, I don't know. It's in clicks. And he goes, okay, well, how fast are we going in clicks? And he goes, like 60. And he's like, that's not so bad. Like he's yelling it. And then he looks at it. He goes, that's in miles per hour. You're going 100 miles per hour on a hog on a dirt road. Like, he just like yells it and it's awful. And then like he goes, "How fast are you going?" And he's like, "Up to 150 miles an hour." He's like, "How is that car catching up to us?" And it's a plane. You would hear an airplane.
What?
And it's like a cargo plane. Like, that would be loud as fuck.
What are they driving? How are they going so fast? It's a
It's
plane.
a plane. Yeah, it's so
my
dumb.
God.
And so then they get in the motorcycle on the thing, and they're driving through this field, and you just start hearing twang, twang. And the first time I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
It's
and
the same thing.
wasn't
The
until, like,
car
third
goes
time.
over the barbed wire fence, and it takes the same
Twang.
twang. I was like, what?
I didn't like, because it's in this weird green night vision tent, you can't even see it until like the third time you can kind of see a post, and they're like, oh, they're driving through a fence. Like, it's barbed wire. How do they not get like clothesline through it? And it doesn't destroy the bike.
Yeah.
Nope. It's really
No, it
strong
makes
bike.
no sense. And then what finally takes them out is they're driving, and this guy has what's supposed to be like a grenade launcher, but it's just like shooting like Roman candles at them. And they fall over, and they're just like, oh, ow, my ass. And they're like, oh, we gotta go. Well, let's go. It's like, there's no way we could do it on doubles. And then he goes, so LL Cool J jumps it. He's about to get the border, and they're about to like snipe him. And Jean Reno is like, no, let him go. Let's see if he makes the jump. And then they just snipe him.
But he makes it. He's like, beautiful. All right.
Yeah.
Kill him.
And then what's weird is like you have throughout this whole movie, you have the guy who is in Lost, who's the Iraqi torture person. He plays like the number 2 guy, and the whole movie he's just kind of like sitting in the background, like looking at the numbers, kind of smiling. But he kind of like seems like he might actually be an okay dude.
Yeah,
like,
you think he'd be like sympathetic or something.
Well, he tells Jonathan like, "Hey, this is what you got to do. You got to pretend that you're like super into this, and you want to like become an owner, and not just a player. And maybe you can get your friend out." And so he's like, oh, okay. And so Jonathan tells the owner, Petrovic, like, hey, I'm willing to play, but I know you're trying to take this global. I want a piece of the action. I want part ownership. And he's like, okay, I guess so. And he goes, and Aurora, she's too clingy. Like, she's all up on my jock, always wanting my nuts. Get rid of her, but like, don't kill her. Trade her.
Then John Reno's like, okay, I can take care of her. He's like, no, don't do that. Just trade her or something.
Just trade her. Right. And so he ends up trading her to the last team. So like, just like the last movie, the last game, no rules. And this last thing, like everybody's getting killed. Everyone's like, all the DJ video jockey, or not video jockey, but like the radio people are like, what? This isn't what this game is about. This is ridiculous, right? And so after a while, like all the players are getting hurt and start to go, and Jonathan just tells everyone to get off the court. And it's the same thing. He's taking out people on there, but it's like this giant dude. And it's just, you just see him cutting. Like, it's just all these jump cuts. Like, you just see him swing, but you don't see it connect. And then it's just like a cut. And then you see him swing, and it's just a cut. Like, you don't actually see him making contact with anybody. And then he just wins. Like, there's no reason for him to
He's
have won
super
any of these
bloody
fights.
the whole time.
Yeah, he's
though.
whole blood. Like, he's just bloody. And then he, like, throws the ball through the glass, and it hits Petrovic in the
through it.
face.
He jumps through it. Like, you think he's
Yeah, he
going
jumps
for the
through it.
score, and Paul Heyman is like, yeah, oh, he's going to do it. Holy shit, he's going to do it. And he just flies through the glass. I'm like, what the fuck?
Well, and this is what's weird. So he, like, you see him, like, hit Petrovic in the face with the ball, and then this guy, like, this guard comes up with a gun, and so he throws the ball at the one guard, and then you see the second guard. There's two guards that come up, and he takes out one guard with the ball. The second guy's standing there, and just inexplicably, he's flying through the air and, like, hits the guy, and it's like, there's no way he got up that fast before the guy pulls the trigger. And then, like, Jean Reno comes, or runs away, and he's, like, in the locker room that
Oh my
inexplicably
God,
has
dude.
loaded shotguns on a bar, and he's, like, trying to unlock the thing, and he goes to shoot. He goes to shoot Jonathan, and he's holding like a metal coffee table.
It was a stool. It was a
Yeah,
fucking
it's a
metal
stool.
stool.
He just like runs at it like ramming, and the shotgun blast just perfectly hits the stool and nothing else.
Oh my god.
And so he like kills that guy, and then Sanjay comes up, and he's like, "Oh, you should never kill anybody You should never kill a tyrant unless you got it in with like his number 2, because I'm in charge now. And he's just like holding a pistol, and he just stands there, and the guy like picks up the shotgun super slow that's still on the bar and like blows him away.
Go ahead, Alex.
You know how every action movie has like a one-liner that's like really good? Like Arnold is like, "Oh, stick around" and stuff like that. So he's like, Sanjay is like, "You know what that means?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm not done yet."
Yeah.
But how did he shoot that shotgun? He was holding the barrel. Like, how did he fire that?
Well, no, the reason he was able to fire it was because it was the trigger. There was a pole that went through where the trigger is. So all he had to do was just yank on the shotgun and the trigger would pull.
Oh my God.
Which doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you wouldn't keep shotguns loaded on that thing?
Nope. Well, he loaded it on there.
No, they were already loaded.
He put all the shells in there.
Yeah, a couple of shells.
Jean Reno put all the shells.
Oh, he loaded all of them?
Yeah.
No, just the one that he broke.
Oh, okay.
That's so bad.
The other
that stool.
fight scene...
I can't get over that stool.
Yeah, it's dumb. But the other fight scene that didn't make any sense was when he was like on his little date with Aurora. They go to this like apartment because she wants to go talk to like the guy who runs the TV station.
Oh, I know what you're
and there's like a giant Russian dude there. And he goes in and he goes to like fight the guy and he like chops the guy's arm or breaks the arm, and then he like kicks the guy in the leg, and then he like punches but it was so slow and so sloppy. It's like the worst choreography. Like clearly this like Kevin Kline.
I was watching this with my roommate, and you see
I keep saying Kevin Kline, Chris Kline.
See Chris Kline. He's like holding the gun. I'm like, is he trying to like hand it to her? Like, what's he doing with that gun? Because he just has it up there. It's just so awkwardly in that frame of shot.
It's just obvious that he could not get the choreography down, so they had to do it super slow. But that happens sometimes, and they speed it up, but they just didn't speed it up.
There's
like
no
the editing in this movie is atrocious. Like this movie is so close to being so bad that it's good, but it doesn't quite hit that. Like it is laughably bad.
There are some sequences just laughably bad. I don't know. It's almost like Birdemic, but not quite Birdemic good.
Right. It's almost like Street Fighter with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Just the whole night vision scene was just laughable. Like,
it's just it's atrocious, and the twang, twang. There's even a point, and then there's like these weird, like throughout the movie, Pink shows up on like
the screen
TV ads.
Was it really Pink?
But like every time she pops up, you never hear her singing.
There's
it's just
none
her,
of her music.
and it's Rob Zombie's song.
And
there's a point where Slipknot's on there.
Slipknot.
They didn't film. They weren't on set for anything. What happened was the crew asked if Slipknot would like to make a cameo, but they couldn't make time to do it. So the crew went to a Slipknot performance, filmed them at an actual concert, and they digitally inserted them into the frame.
Solid.
Yeah, it's so fucking dumb. So LL Cool J said on like Conan O'Brien a couple years after the movie came out that this movie is terrible. He said it was a stupid movie. It was awful, but he had to promote it, but he hated doing it.
There was a scene when he was in the hospital where you could see there was makeup on his tattoo on his left arm.
Right.
And I didn't understand why they would cover that up. The makeup was terrible, and you could 100% see the tattoo. I don't understand why they would even try to cover that up.
There's also some really like choice dialogue that I don't understand. So like he's being interviewed by a Russian lady, and she's like, he wants to know, is your mother a crack whore?
Mother.
Yeah, what was that? Yeah.
He's like,
yes, it's true.
No, she's a pediatrician. Yes, it's true. I'm like, what the fuck?
What's weird is this whole movie. Oh my god, the acting is atrocious. Like it's bad when LL Cool J is the best actor in the movie. Like it's just, oh my god, I don't get this movie. Well, and then like there's even points when like when they're talking about the romance, like they're having sex in like a sauna on like a hard bench.
Yeah,
they can't be comfortable.
No.
She's just like naked and just like walks up and like shoves his face in her boobs, and then it just flashes to them in the sauna. It's like, can we do this in a bed sometime? And she's like, it could be used against us. And she goes, and she's like hiding. He's like, why do you always do that? Why do you turn away from me? Like your face isn't that bad. It's like, wow. It's just I don't get it.
No. It was
Oh, man.
nonsensical.
Like, it's just the editing in this movie between all the really bad jump cuts, the really choppy action scenes, and that green night vision. Like, it's so bad. It's so bad.
It's a terrible movie.
All right, well, so let's get to should
No.
So obviously this one's not bad, but I still think you could do a good Rollerball movie.
I agree. There could be a good Rollerball movie.
I think
if you fix up the story of the first one and just remake it, it's fine.
Right. Have the commercial, the consumerism, make it like Running Man, like you can do.
They could even do like
I think
the
the
new
thing
Total
is tricky.
Recall future,
Right.
and it would be fine.
I think what's weird is, I think this movie made sense because this is like when like the X Games was at its peak, kind of thing. You know, early 2000s, skateboarding, everything was big. I think it made sense at the time to go like roller skates and rollerball and everything. But if you were to make this, 10 years later and have it be like, it's almost like Alita Battle Angel is very similar, like the game that they're playing
Oh yeah, Murder Ball.
Yeah.
as well. Like
Yeah.
have the game and have it set up like it's like the Hunger Games. It could be like you could have easily replaced the Hunger Games like actual hunt, like the actual game, with Rollerball and had that movie and have it be the same. Like, oh, you have different teams from each district, and District 12 is like the poor district, but Jonathan Cross is so good that he makes District 12's team actually be a contender against like the rich districts, and President Snow can't have that be and can't let these teams have hope. Like, there is a good dystopian, like you could drop this in any dystopian movie and make the Jonathan character a hero that has to overcome things, and he doesn't even realize it until they try to get him to retire, or maybe they try to get him to like trade teams to one of the capital city ones. Like, I'm just mashing it with Hunger Games, but like you could do this. Like, there is I feel like I could write a good Rollerball movie.
That's also an interesting point that you point out, is that they're two actually very different. Even though they're similar, there's two different plots. Like, one is about a guy that is being forced to quit, and the games are becoming more violent to force him. And the other one, Rollerball, it's just very violent because he's getting ratings and he's trying to get out. He's trying to quit.
Right.
It's interesting that they're kind of different.
Well, and the original ending was going to be that it still, even with all this going down, it did go global. And Jonathan, like Ridley actually survives. He doesn't get killed. They changed that. That was in a reshoot. They made LL Cool J's character get killed. But originally, Ridley and Aurora get in a bus and go away, and Jonathan's stuck, but he's able to maneuver becoming an owner. So he's making a ton of money, and he gets to go back to America, and that's how he was able to get his pseudo happy ending.
That sounds better than the steel stool.
Right. So I think there's a good movie. Like, you could do this. Like, I actually wouldn't mind if they did another reboot and just fixed up the story.
I would not watch it until someone told me it was good.
It was good. But I'm saying I think they could do it. And I think Keanu would have made this way better.
Oh, definitely. Keanu makes everything better.
I can't remember the other actor they were trying to get after Keanu. Oh, after Keanu Reeves, they tried to get Nicolas Cage, and he turned it down to do The Family Man.
Nice.
Which is a good
choice.
movie. It's a great movie, actually. But this is, like, if this movie was made today, Nicolas Cage would totally do it.
Nicolas Cage does whatever he wants.
You're right. Anyway, I think we've talked these to death. I think it's very obvious that all three of us thought this was a piece of shit.
Don't watch it.
Yeah, don't. If you were to watch this movie, watch it and then fast forward through it and skip scenes around.
Yeah, the fight scene will seem normal to me.
Oh my god! All right, well, thank you guys for listening to Remake Rewind. Check out everything that's Remake Rewind and MDXpods related at MDXpods.com, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Listen to the show on Podcoin. Use our invite code REWIND, REWIND, to get 300 bonus coins. If you want to support the show monetarily, give us some money, you can go to patreon.com/MDXpods and get all these episodes early. Our Lion King episode was actually up like 4 or 5 days early on Patreon. Ruined My Childhood. We just did a special episode. We had Dustin come back, and he talked with us about Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and that was up 5 days before it actually dropped. So you can get cool art, you can get bonus material by supporting us on Patreon. Other than that, thank you guys for listening, and yeah, that's it. Don't watch Rollerball.
Later.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.